Hi, I'm John Barber, Editor-in-Chief at IDW Publishing, and welcome to Barber Shop. I was already a fan of Sam Kieth when he created the Maxx. I'd actually seen his early stuff when he was doing weird indie alternative comics in his beautiful, quirky art style. Playful and cartoony, but with a detailed inking that moved Sam outside of the realm of funny animal artists. No offense to anybody. Sam's stuff just looked a lot different than what was out there. And that appealed to people. Sam went from the indie world into mainstream comics. He drew one of my all-time favorite Wolverine stories. He drew Aliens. He co-created Sandman and drew the early issues of that series. All of those comics still had Sam's unique sensibilities. It wasn't a case where he changed his style to look normal, which meant there was often a tension between his art and the material he was drawing. I found that enjoyable as a reader, but I wondered what would happen if the guy who used to do short stories and critters got to write his own comics again. Well, I found out pretty quick. Sam launched the Maxx at Image, with William Messner Loebs writing dialogue. This was the early days at Image, then a mega-popular upstart publisher focusing on bombastic superhero action, kinetic energy and cool costumes and rad vehicles and giant set pieces. Hey, I loved it. But the Maxx was a weird fit there. The character was ostensibly a superhero. He was homeless, but so was Spawn, so it wasn't totally out of left field. The Maxx didn't really fight demonic creatures or badass supervillains. He spent most of his time in the Outback, a manifestation of his subconscious, where he was a powerful hero fighting alongside the Jungle Queen, who, in the real world, was a social worker named Julie Winters. That mix of superheroic action and psychological drama was the crux of the Maxx. It was almost like Sam made a comic about the difference between indie and mainstream comics. And as a young dude who liked both, the Maxx was right in my wheelhouse. And it struck a chord with a whole lot of people. The Maxx became a show on MTV at the height of MTV's cultural power. That show was one of the most accurate adaptations of a comic book ever. It even used some of the layouts of Sam's comic book pages on screen for dramatic effects. But eventually Sam brought the tale of the Maxx to a conclusion and moved on to other projects. Then a few years ago, well, I guess it was a while now, I no longer have any sense of time at all. Sam teamed up with IDW, plus colorist Rhonda Pattison and editor Scott Dunbier, to bring back the classic tales of the Maxx with new coloring, and the series never looked better. And then, Sam had a kooky idea for the first new Maxx story in decades. Team up the Maxx, one of the most free-spirited, ephemeral characters out there, with a hero in many ways his opposite, Batman. Batman's MO is discipline. He's trained to peak physical and mental acuity, right? The Maxx is not. He's usually confused and out of sorts, and he's at home in a chaotic world that doesn't quite make sense. But the Maxx and Batman do have a couple big things in common: psychological damage and a knack at dealing with the absurd, each in their own way. And Sam was no stranger to Batman, having spent several of the intervening years writing and drawing some classic Batman tales with our pals at DC Comics. Now, this new story opens with Arkham Asylum's most dangerous threats invading the Maxx's psyche. Batman has to help the Maxx navigate the real world, while the Maxx helps Batman navigate the psychic landscape, searching for Julie in both locations to save Gotham City and the Outback. So Sam Kieth crafted this story into a 5-part tale, and it started to be released to great acclaim and terrific sales. Unfortunately, despite everyone's best intentions and efforts, the schedule went off the rails. Sometimes these things happen, and what was happening was some stuff beyond anybody's control. But now the last 2 issues are done. I've seen them. One of them's even at the printer already. So for a refresher, IDW and Sam are re-releasing the first 3 issues in one giant comic book with a brand new cover. It's a great way to catch up on a bizarre and unique story, the perfect intro into the world of the Maxx. Or the world of Batman, if you've never checked him out. He's pretty cool too. Like the Maxx, Batman has had a TV show. Superheroics and character drama blend together in prime Sam Kieth fashion for a surreal, funny, surprising, and beautifully drawn story of 2 damaged heroes working to save each other and the worlds they have sworn to protect, whether real or imaginary. So check our web store or your local comic shop and grab a copy of Batman Maxx Arkham Dreams, The Lost Year, compiling the first 3 issues, written and drawn by Sam Kieth, colored by Rhonda Pattison, and lettered by Sean Lee. Then keep your eyes peeled for issues 4 and 5 coming in the next 2 months. And as always, let's use this time to connect and keep the IDW community active. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below and I'll answer what I can. You never do, but I will. That's all for this week. Remember, you can keep up with IDW on social media and check back here every week for news and updates. Thanks for watching.